Anybody know who this is? Sure you do. Everybody does. Anybody ever heard of the Amber Alert? That's Amber. Everybody know what the Amber Alert is? 1996, about 20 minutes from my house, this little angel gets kidnapped, kept alive for 3 days and tortured, and then murdered. 20 years. We still haven't caught that killer. Back in the early part of this century, about 15 years ago, about 4 years after it happened, I was at work one day, my police uniform, got off, went to the department, got in my car. I was a school cop, loved it. Got in my car, started driving home, and I had this old van where the gas needles broke, and I never knew how much gas I had. I was about to get rid of it, but I hung on to it to the last second because it was a gift. Ran out of gas, cruised into a church parking lot, got out of the car, said something I shouldn't have said. I was only 4 blocks from the house, but I was in my police uniform, and I was so embarrassed. I started walking home, and a man walks over to me. "Officer, what's wrong?" I said, "I'm out of gas. I'm going to go home and get me some." He said, "Oh, no, I'll go get you some." And I said, "Man, I don't know you, sir. Besides, I don't have a dime on me." He said, "Well, I got some money on me, and I love the police. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go get you some gas. Don't have time to argue." I said, "Okay, do it. Thank you." He said, "But do me a favor." I said, "Sure." He said, "My wife will be coming out of that door in a minute." And he pointed to a school next door, an elementary school. He pointed to a gym on the south side, a gym door. He said, "My wife will be coming out of there any minute. Just tell her everything's okay. She'll be holding my son's hand real tightly and just assure her everything's okay." I said, "Sure." He said, "You might even recognize her. Her name is Donna, and she's the mother of Amber Hagerman." And I said, "You're my neighbors? Amber's mother?" "Yes, sir, we are, Officer Meeks. Our kids go to school together." I said, "Well, sure, I'd like to meet her." He leaves. A minute or two later, she comes out of the door. She's holding her son's hand real tightly. She goes toward her car, and she's looking, for her husband for a second. I said, "Hello, Donna, I'm Officer Meeks. Everything's fine. I ran out of gas. Your husband went to get me some. I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed." She said, "Oh, okay, that's okay." She got in the car to wait for him. I would learn later that everywhere she went, she made him follow so nobody would steal her last kid. She sat in the car for a minute, and she looked up at me and said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "Yes, I do, Donna. You're Amber Hagerman's mother from the Amber Alert. I saw you on TV recently with the president. You've been an inspiration to all of us." Didn't know what to say. A few seconds passed, and she looked at me. I remember this as if it happened this morning. She looked up at me out the passenger side window, and she said, "Officer Meeks, you know what I miss the most about Amber?" Now, I got 5 daughters, folks. 5. Do you know what I miss the most about her? I said, "Donna, I have no idea what you go through. I got 5 daughters. I can't imagine what you go through every day." And she looked at me and she said, "I sure do miss combing her hair." Oh, wow. I got my gas. I ran home. I came back in and sat in the living room. I had a 5-year-old daughter at the time, still do. Her name is Lydia. She was in the room next to me about 20 feet away. I shouted at her, "Lydia!" "What, Dad?" "Get in here and bring a brush." She came running in there with a brush. I said, "Sit down here. Let me comb that hair." Ladies and gentlemen, you must do everything that you've got to do to protect your children, because the enemy is coming after them to molest them, to hurt them. And we who've been so worried about the active shooter that's struck about 300 or 400 times in all these years ought to be concerned about the active sex offender who strikes twice as many times as that every 30 days.